Okay, Obama lies in church. Yes, I watched the eulogy to John Lewis, and I disagree with every political thing John Lewis ever did, period. But I do give him credit because he did fight for civil rights in an era when people literally got assassinated. It wasn't like playing fucking games like it is today. Back in the day, people literally got assassinated. Okay, and John Lewis himself had his head busted open twice by police officers. Okay, so they weren't playing games back then. So I will give him credit there. I don't particularly like him. He did a lot of things I don't agree with, but I have to at least give him some credit there. Now, Obama gave a politically motivated eulogy in church, which included lying. Now, I took a constitutional law class years ago, and the professor there was a New York City cop, New York City prosecutor, New York City defense attorney. Yeah, all three, right? She said, the term paper this year is voting rights. You go from there. You do whatever you want from there. Some guys did voting rights for this, voting rights for that. One girl did voting rights for convicted felons, even guys in jail. She was liberal. She wanted guys to vote in jail. But anyway, I chose voting rights of the former Confederacy. Now, voting rights of the former Confederacy, and I've seen it all. I read it all, and I know about all of it, okay? I've seen they had guys in the former Confederacy who were white, who literally could not read, register to vote, and they had black guys that had master's degrees in literature failed the voting the literacy test 12 times. Okay, it got nasty. Now the Voting Rights Act basically said that the southern states, who were controlled by Democrats, could not pass any voting laws unless they had written permission from Congress, because Congress had to make sure they were not passing unfair voting laws. And all the voting laws were stupid back then. Okay, white guys would be illiterate, and they would fill the application out for them. Black guys would have master's degrees, and they would fill it. It got pretty freaking crazy. I'll give you one example. You had to register in person back then because they could see your skin color. A white guy would come in, and the registrar would read him the instructions. You vote Tuesday, November. You vote once, whatever the fuck the problem is. And the white guy would say, yes, I understand. Register to vote. Black guy would come in. They would hand the black guy the instructions. And they would tell the black guy, you read the instructions to me and make me understand it. And then the registrar would be like, I didn't understand your explanation. You can't register to vote. Okay, that was it. So the federal government passed the Voting Rights Act to say you can't pass any voting laws without our permission. Now, many years later, the Supreme Court was petitioned by the southern states, and I'm talking over 5 decades later. It was a couple years ago. It was during the Obama administration. And the complaint was, we haven't had any racial problems in over 5 decades, and every single solitary politician who was responsible for them is long since dead. All the Dixiecrats, all the segregationists, all the Klansmen, they were all dead. Bull Connor, Wallace, they were all dead. And the argument was, why should we be punished for things that guys did 50 years ago who are now dead? And the Supreme Court said, the Voting Rights Act is amended. You southern states do have the right to pass your own voting laws, but every law you pass must conform to equally blacks and whites. You cannot have a law that says whites only or black. It has to be blacks and whites together. You cannot have the mixed match laws. So if the Supreme Court, if one of the southern states is caught, the black guy comes in, explain this to me, I understand it, or the white guy comes in illiterate and they fill the application on form, that would be a violation of the Supreme Court. And Obama said that the Supreme Court overturned the Voting Rights Act, or the Voting Rights Act is now gone. And Al Sharpton said that when it first happened. That's a lie. Obama also said voting should be a national holiday. Well, most people have off on election day. And there were times when I had to work on election day, and I got up, went to vote, then went to work. It was one year I was working 2 jobs at once. I voted on my break. Most polling places are open between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. Your state may differ a little bit. If so, that's that. How many people do you know work from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m.? Maybe a couple of corrections officers or a couple of guys at mental institutions. Or maybe a doctor who's working in a hospital and a trauma center. Those guys would have the right to ask their boss, listen, it's election day. How much break time do I get between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m.? Can I have X amount of break and to go vote? Or fill out an absentee ballot. And he says, voting should be a holiday. Okay, most people it is. And guys that so he's just using this as a race pimp thing. Police this, police have the knee on the necks of black men. Okay, one cop broke one black guy's neck. How would you feel if let's assume this, okay? When I was 15, I was on the block, and I had 2 black men pull a knife on me. So I had to break free of them and run away, okay? I had to fight my way out, Those are 2 black men. I did not in my life, nor will I today, hold all black men responsible. When I was 12, my mother was purse snatched by a Hispanic person. I don't blame all Hispanic people. Okay? If you are a Jew and your family was killed in the Holocaust, when a lot of Jews I know, they had at least one relative die. Even to this day. I know them, my great-great-great-great-aunt died in the Holocaust, okay? You as a Jew, do you blame all Germans? Okay? Church is supposed to be a sacred thing. Now, I'm not the most religious person in the world. I curse a blue streak all the time. Okay? I haven't been to confession in a long time. Oh, God. Okay? I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I'm the most religious person in the world. And I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I'm a saint. Okay? However, I learned at a very young age it's a sin against God to lie in church. Okay? Or a church is supposed to be sacred. Some poor guy, some guy dies, you say, okay, we love him. That's that, okay? And I don't believe in going to church and lying, or going to church and bad-mouthing police officers. And this is not the first time he did it. I remember when the 5 Dallas cops were murdered that night. I remember that. I watched it live on TV. And I'm gonna get emotional now. He actually said Alton Sterling's family is hurting. He said it in the church, in front of the families. Alton Sterling was the guy who was shot by the cops. And he was a career criminal. He wouldn't talk to them. They started grappling. He reached for a gun, and they shot him as he reached for the gun. And the 5 cops' families, they don't want to hear that some guy many miles away, my father believed this when he was growing up. He believed, God's full truth, that if you committed a crime against God in the church, you'll be struck by lightning. Like if you stole from the church. Okay, my father honestly believed if I go to church and steal the money out of the church, I'm going to get hit by lightning. God's going to take revenge on me. He believed that, okay? Now, I don't know if that's true or what's going to happen, but you have to understand that the house of God is sacred. Okay? The house of God is where everyone comes to be equal, and the house of God is where sinners come to repent. Okay? So getting political in church, lying in church, I mean, that is not appropriate. Okay? It's not a bar. Okay? You're not in a bar. You're not in the back alley. Okay? You're not in the whorehouse. Okay? You act different in church. You could be the nastiest scumbag in the world, but when you go to church, behave yourself. Give God that dignity. You're bad-mouthing all cops in church, or you're lying in church. You're saying that, well, people can't vote, or the women. You're political pandering. Okay, hyping up fear in church. There has to be a line somewhere. Okay, there has to be some moral compass. Okay. I mean, I've had family and friends that died, and they were not heroes at all by any stretch of the imagination. But when we went to church, we respected. We didn't say, hey, this guy's a fucking asshole, or fuck this guy, or we didn't say, I hate the cops, or fuck this race, okay? We didn't do that, okay? Because, God is supposed to be pure. God is supposed to be the one thing above all of us. And it upsets me to see someone lie in church, get political in church, badmouth cops in church. You want to do it on the floor of the Senate, that's fine. Okay? You want to do it in the back alley, that's fine. Okay? Keep your shit where it belongs. Okay? I don't curse in church. Okay? I don't act like a dumbass in church. I don't. I actually behave myself. Okay? Give God some dignity. Bye.